This is a book review of Rod Serling, Planet of the Apes Visionaries. And this is by Dana Gould and Chad Lewis. And it's from Boom. So Boom there, Boom Studios. And it's a fairly thin book, 112 pages. However, it's a fine read. And I'm just going to go through this book, 112 pages. And this book came out in 2018. You can see it's hardcover. Just open it up. Now, this is always going to be a problem, obviously, the sort of thing. It's quite tight there, but still fine to open. Nice paper quality, and just going to go through some of this book. I love Planet of the Apes. I love the film. I also loved the original book, Monkey Planet. Absolute brilliant. One of my all-time favourite books to read. It's one of those books you can pick up and you can read it in a couple of hours, because I've read it so many times that I can go through it very quickly. But I love it. Now, I'd love to see a film done of that. Also, I'd love to see a graphic novel done of that as well, Monkey Planet. But this is brilliant. It's similar to the film, very similar. There's a few disappointments where I would have loved to have seen, but however, there's all the details of all the various people involved. And there's also it's more to the credits, etc. Always very good. And I thought the artwork was absolutely brilliant. Very, very nice. The story is told very well. Nice flow. Love the characters. Love the character, which is very different from the Charlton Heston character. That's another difference in story. So I've just got this, just going to show you some of the artwork in the story. So there's the there. I mean, I think that's just very well drawn, very reasonable art all the way through. And the colouring is great. I love the colouring. Love the graduated colours there of the sky. Always great. You've got a lovely bit where they're in the forest. And obviously the story's similar to this book. There are some, and I'm not going to spoil it to say any more particularly about the story, because there's another bit of scene there. You've got lovely, obviously they're washing themselves down. I mean, it's great with the water just flowing all over them, obviously on the beach there. And I think that's just great. Well, the story is fine, but the apes it's very different from the film in some ways. I mean, obviously in the film they're fairly bit more primitive. In this, there's a lot more development of, obviously it's more similar to us. Rod Serling has obviously went for basically apes, swap them over, and all the various things run through that are us. And I think it's really brilliantly done. They're really, really nasty at times. Some of obviously you've got some sympathetic characters who are, obviously the gorillas are pretty vicious. The orangutan obviously is pretty devious, is the politician, it's like in the film, but I think it's really good. Now, I would love to see the film one done like this as well, a nice little hardback like this. That would be nice, by Boom. I know, of course, there is Planet of the Apes series. I really must check that series out. I've got the omnibus edition. I have yet to read it, so that's something to look forward. Maybe the story is just as good as this. I don't know. I did enjoy the Planet of the Apes series of Marvel. I loved that back in the middle 70s. Thoroughly enjoyed that. Unfortunately, I didn't buy the archive editions, but I have got quite a few of the original comics. So, but I wish I'd got the archive editions now, but they are quite expensive to buy. But this is just great. You've got a lot of development that's not included in the film or even in the comic books, as far as I've seen. So I just love this. This is just absolutely great. You've still got some elements at the end that are similar, and flows really well all the way through this book. So you've got all that. It's in colour, most of it. And now I'm not going to quickly go, don't want to show the end. That's awful to show the end. But you know the end of Planet of the Apes. But do you? That's the thing. Do you know the end of Planet of the Apes? Actually, that's one of the things that's slightly disappointing, which I was going to say right at the start, was the fact it didn't have an introduction or detail particularly about Rod Serling and the development of the drafts. I would have loved to have seen sort of the development of all the history of it, the flow of, so it was a pity. That seems, unless I missed that when I was reading through the extras at the back, there is no particular detail about that. And I would have, now there is a book that I keep thinking about maybe by the making of Planet of the Apes. So perhaps there's a lot more about it in that. So it's one to possibly get at some point. I will check that out. However, you've got the development of the characters at the back. You've got some lovely sketches. You've got the characters. You've got Thomas. He's the, I love this bit. I always saw Paul Newman as Thomas. Obviously, Charlton Heston being the main character in the film. Zara or Zira. Zias. Now, Gamey went to the test footage. Edward G. Robinson in 1966, of course, was going to play the character. I'm always amazing that. He would have been amazing. I love Edward G. Robinson is, to me, one of the great actors. I loved Edward G. Robinson in not hundreds of films, but lots and lots of films. You got Nova. Now she's in it as well. Of course, there's the Nova. And you got the soldiers. You've got some pictures again, drawings of the soldiers. Then you got the anatomy as a cover. And then you got to March of Progress, introducing Rod Serling. So there's a bit of detail about the apes and various reveal of, I'm not going to say anything about that, the first time, etc., and afterward at the end. And there's there is a bit of information about Rod Serling, but not a huge amount. But there's a bit about like Walking Distance, written by Serling, told about, all about why the person was interested in Rod Serling, the artist and writer. So it's absolutely loved this book. Really, really pleased I got this one because I held off for quite a while. I thought, do I want it? Do I really want it? No, yes, no. One of those sort of books you think, And I regret that because I think, wow, I loved this book. And so I'm really pleased I got it. And I hope they bring out, other books, similar sort of fashion. There must be loads of scripts out there, early versions of, I'd love to see Logan's Run. I love Logan's Run film. It's got three of my least favourite actors. I'm really not a fan of Michael York, etc. That sort of thing. But it's, I love the film. And I would love to see if there was like a book like this of Logan's Run. I would buy that in an instant. And I'm glad that, this one that came out. And then just superb. Absolutely superb.